On this virtual tour stop, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of the oak regeneration problem, as well as the 2 rules of oak regeneration. And I'll post a publication in the comments section that'll give you tons of information on basically everything that I'm going to go over in about 4 minutes here. So if we look around this stand, this is pretty typical of the Piedmont. If you want to follow me around, this is a 360 video. Let's start by looking up. So if we look up, I know the camera resolution may not do much justice here, but this is largely an oak dominated stand. Specifically, it's white oak. There's a little bit of red oak in here, mostly white oak though. There's some hickory, there's some yellow poplar, there's my personal favorite, some shortleaf pine that's still hanging on since the last phase of agricultural abandonment and eventual succession to hardwood dominance out here. But this is pretty much what we see in the Piedmont. So the oak is dominating the overstory, and that's great. We like oak. However, if we look down at the advanced regeneration that's present in this stand, kind of the sapling layer and the mid-story layer, it's largely dominated by things like American beech, red maple. When we do get some gaps that form, it's yellow poplar. But the issue there is that regeneration in these stands is largely driven by the advanced regeneration that's in place at the time of disturbance. So if we were to have a canopy gap open up in this stand, it's largely going to be stuff like this that gets released, or if it's a major disturbance and things get smashed, a sapling of about this size, we assume that it has a decent root system on it and that it's going to sprout back pretty vigorously following that disturbance, and that's what dominates the regeneration of that next stand. So the rules of oak regeneration is to have really any prayer of having oak in your next stand. You need the presence of oak advanced regeneration of competitive sizes, so stuff about this size. Then you need the timely release of that competitive regeneration. So it can't sit like this forever. Something that gets to this size, it's using some resources to get there. If it doesn't get the sunlight that it needs, oftentimes it just dies back down to the ground layer, or dies back down to the rootstock and hopefully sprouts back and waits for conditions to improve. If those conditions don't improve in time, you can actually lose that regeneration source in your stand. The issue we have on these Piedmont sites is we don't really have any of that oak advanced regeneration in place. Very few and far between. We have certain portions of certain stands that get it, but for the most part, when we have oak, it sits at the seedling layer. In fact, if we look down here, this is pretty much the only hickory I have in here, is that little 3-inch tall thing. And we don't actually even have any oak in here that I can see. And that's fairly typical, unfortunately. So this video series, what I'm going to focus on are some techniques that we're implementing here in the Piedmont to build oak advanced regeneration up to this competitive size. And again, I think I stated this earlier in the video. This is not an oak tree, this is a red maple. I'm grabbing the nearest tree that's nearby, and odds are that's going to be a red maple in a stand like this. If it weren't maple, it'd be beech. But we just don't have the oak in this size. But I'm going to show you some techniques that we're using, some silvicultural treatments that we're implementing here in the Piedmont to build oak up to this size, and then once we get it to this size, provide that timely release of that competitive regeneration in hopes that we'll have, or continue to have, an oak component in the next stand on these sites. So with that, I would encourage you to kind of look around and get a feel, and I'll go ahead and shut off, and I hope you enjoy the follow-up videos to this.